In the late 19th century, a mysterious illness emerged, moving with a speed the world had never seen before. It traveled by steamship and rail, a silent passenger on the arteries of a newly connected globe. This was the pandemic of 1889, often called the Russian flu, and its story holds unsettling echoes for our own time. It began, as many of these stories do, with scattered reports. In May 1889, in Bukhara, a city in what is now Uzbekistan, people began falling ill with a strange sickness. It started with a headache and fever, then a hacking cough that left them breathless. From Bukhara, it spread like wildfire. By October, it had reached St. Petersburg, the capital of the Russian Empire. The city's telegraph offices buzzed with news of the outbreak, and soon the illness had a name: the Russian flu. The world of 1889 was a world in motion. New railway lines crisscrossed continents, and steamships plied the oceans, shrinking distances and connecting populations as never before. These marvels of modern engineering became the superhighways for the virus. From St. Petersburg, it followed the rail lines into Europe. By November, it was overwhelming Berlin. In December, it hit Paris, and then crossed the Channel to London. Newspapers reported on crowded hospitals and rising death tolls. The speed was terrifying. What once would have taken years to cross the globe now did so in mere months. By the end of December, the pandemic had crossed the Atlantic. New York City was the first major American city to be hit, and the flu quickly spread across the United States, reaching the West Coast by January 1890. Global trade routes carried it to Africa, Asia, and Australia. Within 4 months, it had circumnavigated the planet. No corner of the earth seemed safe. The reaction was a mixture of fear, confusion, and a strange sense of modern vulnerability. For the first time, people could track a pandemic's progress in near real time through the daily papers. Headlines screamed of the grip, the French term for the illness. Public spaces were deserted, theaters closed, businesses shuttered, and people stayed home, wary of their neighbors. Scientists were baffled. The germ theory of disease was still relatively new, and the concept of a virus was unknown. They couldn't see the enemy, so they fought in the dark. Treatments were a shot in the dark, ranging from quinine and camphor to more dubious remedies advertised in newspapers. Doctors advised rest, fresh air, and isolation. Advice that sounds remarkably familiar today. Governments were largely unprepared. Public health infrastructure was in its infancy. There was little they could do to stop the relentless march of the disease. The world could only watch, wait, and count the dead. Unlike later pandemics, the Russian flu was not a single, devastating wave. It came back. After the initial surge in the winter of 1889 to 1890, it receded, only to return with a vengeance in the spring of 1891 and again in the winter of 1892. Each wave brought more sickness and death, often hitting different age groups and regions harder than the last. The elderly were particularly vulnerable during the first wave, but later waves saw higher mortality among younger adults. When the dust finally settled around 1894, the global toll was staggering. It is estimated that the Russian flu infected over half the world's population and killed approximately 1 million people. In an era before modern medicine, it was one of the deadliest pandemics in history. The world was left scarred, generation haunted by the memory of the grip. For over a century, the Russian flu was assumed to be just that, an influenza virus. But recent scientific investigations have proposed a startling new theory. By studying historical records and viral genetics, some scientists now believe the 1889 pandemic may not have been caused by an influenza virus at all. Instead, they point to a different culprit: a human coronavirus, Alce 43. This coronavirus is now one of the causes of the common cold, but the theory suggests it may have jumped from cattle to humans in the late 19th century, causing a devastating pandemic before eventually weakening into a milder endemic illness. The symptoms described in 1889, the loss of taste and smell. The neurological issues are eerily similar to those we've seen recently. If this theory is correct, it means a coronavirus pandemic had already swept the globe more than a century before COVID-19. The parallels are undeniable. The rapid global spread facilitated by modern transport, the spread of misinformation and dubious cures, the overwhelmed hospitals and the exhausted medical professionals, the economic disruption and the social isolation. The public's reliance on daily news for updates on an invisible threat. The story of the Russian flu is not just a chapter from a dusty history book. It is a mirror reflecting our own experiences. It shows us that pandemics are not a new phenomenon. They are a recurring feature of human history, an inevitable consequence of our interconnected world. The Russian flu of 1889 was a harsh lesson in how quickly a new pathogen can circle the globe, a lesson that was largely forgotten by the time the next great pandemic arrived. It serves as a powerful reminder of our enduring vulnerability and the critical importance of global cooperation, scientific research, and public health preparedness. The ghosts of 1889 have a lot to teach us about facing the challenges of today and tomorrow. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past enlightening, please like this video and subscribe for more stories from history.